Before Noel, we talked about writing as a portal for women to access their rebel yells. And I offer a lot of writing experiences because of that. But there's another one, and I bet you've already discovered it. Movement. Something happens for a woman when she dances. I don't care what kind of dance you do. I'm kind of like a way I hurt people if they get too close. I'm very physical. I take a lot of space. So I don't care what kind of dance you do, how you look while you're doing it, or how often you do it. When a woman moves her body, she moves the world. When I was pregnant and I was birthing my youngest son, he was big, and I was in labor, and I started moving my hips in an infinity sign for hours until he finally came out. And I had taken one belly dancing class with the amazing Jean Handy, but I was no belly dancer. But somewhere my body knew how to move things through me, and I started doing it. I saw the same thing happen at many of my homecoming women's retreats. Not babies being born, but women moving their body. When women were out there on the dance floor, I saw that they became the best versions of themselves. Even though I didn't know many of them before, I got the sense that this was the best version and expression of this person. Women were flushed and fiery. They were sassy and audacious. They were bold, and they were dripping with power. They became magnetic, radiant, and free. So this past spring, I got out of my own way, and I put on another dance experience because I felt like dancing. And it was a benefit dance, and we raised $500 for a local women's shelter, and we also raised more than that. Out on the dance floor that night, we unleashed the hounds. And shit moved as a result of those 3 hours on the dance floor, and anyone who was on the dance floor will attest to it. We were complete strangers, and there was stuff happening on that dance floor, because there's a strong link between movement and power and expression for women. It's almost like they're links in the chain, each one connected to the other. The late Gabrielle Roth, founder of the 5 Rhythms dance, who's the person who invited us all to sweat our prayers, she said that dance is the fastest and most direct way to the truth. This past Valentine's Day, Eve Ensler spearheaded this worldwide campaign that many of you maybe might have participated in called 1 Billion Rising. And it was an event to create a feminist tsunami that would heal our world and awaken and harness the power of our collective unconscious through movement. So it seems movement is the key to access our truth, which leads to voice, which leads to action, which leads to creating change. So it's all great, right? But we don't do it so often. And why is that? We decline, we demur, we stand at the edges, like Shannara referenced, we stand at the edges of our own dance floor. And why? Because we're scared of making an ass of ourselves. It's perfectly human and very natural, right? But we do this time and time again. But we forget that even natural-born dancers get stage fright. What if we suck? What if we're the best one out there? To be sure, rebel yells require us to make ourselves vulnerable because they often start with one person, in this case, all of you. Stepping up and standing out, and this is actually the premise of the book that I'm writing, for all of us to go first. It's about starting a movement that's powered by courage and fed by community. And there's a great illustration of this in yet another TED Talk. Ready for this one? Derek Seaver has this TED Talk on how to start a movement. And he takes this video clip of a guy at a Fish concert, and he says, now watch this. This is how a movement happens. And a guy walks into the middle of the field, he takes off his shirt, and he just starts dancing. In the middle, I'm going to be friends with this guy. In the middle of the field. And he calls this guy the lone nut. And he said, now watch what happens. Because sooner or later, a couple other people come over and they start dancing with him. And pretty soon you have a crowd. And he said, this is how a a movement gets started, and they said it's the critical part of a movement are the first few followers, because the first few followers will transform that lone nut into a leader. So while a movement doesn't actually happen without followers, nothing happens without the lone nut going first. So when I have those moments of really wanting to be the lone nut and really being scared, I just think of a honey badger. So many of you might have seen the video, the YouTube video that went viral about the honey badger and how badass and crazy, but there's all sorts of inspiration about that, right? Honey badgers are fearless, often to the point of oblivion. Honey badger don't care. Honey badger don't give a shit. It just goes like that. It knows what it wants to do. It grabs it. It takes what it wants. It works alone. It answers to no one. Nobody puts honey badger in a corner. My friend Jess will call this going all Wolverine on something that she feels really strongly about. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, author of Women Who Run with the Wolves, says that this is the calling card of the wild woman archetype. She says that wild women will thunder after injustice. And what we're really talking about here is caring enough about something to stand up for it, feeling committed enough to take action despite fear, despite the doubt, and even though you're only one lone nut out there dancing. What we're really talking about is being of service to the world, and I've worked with enough women to realize that if you can make that connection between doing what you want to do and having it being of service, they have no problem getting busy living or getting busy dying. They choose living, by the way. Our next speaker has a lot of experience being that lone nut, sometimes for entertainment and sometimes for being by living her life, and always with love and a passion for community, to be of service and to create positive change for everyone who walks the earth. Please welcome to the stage to tell her story the amazing Erica Lael.